Hello, everybody out there on your computers. My name is Caro from Nika Music, and we won't shut up. Sadly, our moderator for today, Mathilde, is sick, so Anson is our replacement for today. Genau. First, I want to thank very much the whole team of Bellevue de Monaco, especially Manina, who is always a very great support. Okay, and so I introduce the guests. We have with us Olaf Weberring, head of the Social Impact Lab, Munich. Then we have Doris Lee from Hong Kong, coordinator of No Chains. Then Anson, and with us the translator, Carolina Della... and Ntokoko, who is also in Munich per Zoom. And now I give the word to Anson. Thank you and have fun. Oh God, Tamara, sorry. And Tamara Rosenberg for sure from Buenos Aires.
All right. So, hello everybody. Well, let me just start saying. Well, today's topic it's as stated, women in social economy. And when we talk about social economy, we are talking about an economic model that puts people, health, environment, etc. Before profit motives. It is kind of like it's an economy that works for life, essentially. Should I stop for you? Oh yeah, okay. Sorry. I think it's especially important in like a time of crisis, such as now when we have the corona pandemic, that we need to rethink about how our economy is organized. And a good example would be, for instance, during Argentina during the early 2000s, when there was a financial crisis, that workers, they reopened and running successfully their own workplace, their factories, when the bosses closed them down. Well, I mean, as we all know that women especially face more difficulties in their work and in the economy. So I think, I mean, that's something that we could, it would worth to talk more about. And so therefore, I mean, today we are here in Bellevue de Monaco, here in Munich, which is also a social cooperative. And we have invited like 4 brilliant guests, and each of them would have, in some ways, connect and involve in this concept of social economy. And I think this is a very, very good opportunity for us to exchange experience, exchange stories, and to build connections with all of us from like different parts of the world. And so, well, I mean, let's jump into it. And maybe I will start with Olaf here with us. Well, I guess to start, perhaps you can tell us about the work of Social Impact Lab, and why is it like social?
So hi everybody, my name is Olaf. I'm the manager of the Social Impact Lab in Munich. Social Impact is a company that runs Germany-wide, and Social Impact has been around for over 20 years now. So we do have kind of an expertise in all kind of inclusive topics. It is our main thing that we do. It started off in Berlin and around the Eastern German area with the fall of the wall and what succeeded as things that had to be done around it. And then it spread throughout the country. So Munich is just one of the places that we are located at. I opened the Social Impact Lab in Munich in mid of 2017. So that was while we still had a large number of refugees coming through Munich. It is also the time when we started to set up a program we have now, which is the THSN program called the Network for Refugee Startups. We are supported by the Generali Insurance that started the whole program and also funded it and is still funding it. So the human safety net for refugee startups is the whole name of it. And yeah, we got operation in 2018, I think, where we really started to get into action after setting up the lab.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned there's a lot of refugees coming in. So I wonder if the people who work with you or you support, are there many women among them?
So first of all, I must be said that our program is looking out for a special proportion of people. So a really small topic, by the way. Becoming self-working in Germany, independently working in Germany is quite difficult as it is, even as a German. But it gets more complicated if you're a migrant, and even more complicated if you're a refugee, because there are really a big set of rules that you need to refer to and to keep in mind. And so it's a small portion of people, and we knew this from the start. We just wanted to do something else, because at this time everybody was looking for jobs, getting refugees into jobs, and we thought, okay, let's try something else and try people who want to open up their own business. So we didn't have many women to start with. When we started in 2018, I think until 2019, we roughly had 5% maybe. So we ask ourselves why. Most of our coaches, all of our coaches until this time, were female, so it couldn't be that. And I'm not intimidating, and I'm not the coach myself. So we didn't know what it was about, but it soon showed that there were a couple of problems that we could not solve as a social impact lab. It starts with refugees coming here. Female refugees often also have to take care of the children. So this is something they imported from home. So it is also a cultural thing sometimes that they take care of the children naturally, while the men go to work or find a job, and so they're pretty much stuck. And they don't know their way around finding support, finding childcare. It's all very difficult for refugees. So I think this is the main topic that keeps women from coming to our place. It has become better with the years now, because I think people have come here, maybe settled somehow and found their ways to do. And now I think we have a very good proportion. I haven't looked into it lately, but I would just suppose from what I see that we're around 30% now.
Okay, wow, that's a big jump from the beginning when you said it's like 5%. You mentioned that there's a lot of difficulties that refugees and immigrants face when they try to establish themselves economically. I wonder if you can elaborate a little bit, like what are those difficulties, and especially for the the smaller proportion that women in among this group of people.
Well, it can generally be said that getting funding is always the issue, always. It is for all kind of migrants. It's always a problem to get money. Why is that? Well, I'm a former banker, so what I can tell you is if you have a bad credit record, it's not good. But if you have none at all, it's worse, because no bank will give you any credit. And microcredit is not something that is very much known in Germany. So there are a few small microcredit institutions, but they're really scarce, and there's not much. So what most people have been trying to do is to get some crowdfunding money. But the market was pretty soon overrun, so everybody tried to get some crowdfunding, and we had thousands of ideas going around and thousands of projects being in, and most of them never made it to big funding. So this is one of the most occurring problems for refugees and for migrants getting started. And of course, there is the German bureaucracy, which is famous for being very complicated and long. And I recently learned the longest German word. I didn't even understand it myself because it was something very administrative. So this makes it very complicated to even get started. And from the beginning, most of the people coming to us wanted to do something with restaurant or opening some kind of little food shops and so on. Well, this is among the most difficult things you can do in Germany, because as soon as you handle food, the rules go up like this. So it's really getting difficult, and it's getting very expensive.
Right, okay.
Oh yeah, and especially for women, as you asked.
Yes.
Even for non-migrants, I just recently read it again, getting money for women entrepreneurs is more difficult. Why? Because they're not taken seriously. So they have an even tougher time getting money. And I can imagine that it's even harder if you're a migrant.
Right. So it's like double hard to get the funding needed to start up a business. I guess perhaps you can tell us a bit about like then how Social Impact Lab as a business and also as a project are helping people to find the necessary support and tools and so on to start their business.
So as I said earlier before, the Human Safety Net for Refugee Startups is funded by Generali, which is a good thing for us because they leave us a lot of liberties. At the same time, they provided us with enough funding so we can give proper support. So in Munich, we have 2 coaches, Christina and Julia. And they both support people both here and the one we meet online. We can also provide a lot of professional help in difficult subjects such as anything with legal support or IT or commercial support or how to get your marketing done. So we can help in some perspective, not everything, but we can. We have good connections, and we can also pay amount of people to do things for us. So this is the main thing we can do. We can prepare you into getting into this. We can support to a certain degree. We can even do some after funding support, which is very important, but unfortunately just to a very small amount because it is very restricted in Germany. We cannot work as a non-profit organization if we support existing companies. It's difficult. So this is what we can do. And we're also working right now on a new project that might open up pretty good new options for people we support, also financially. But I cannot go into detail with that now because it's a bit too early.
All right, okay. Well, look forward to more details about that in the future. Well, I wonder if how do you like select people to support? Like, what are the criterias? Like, maybe you can tell us a bit about it.
So we started off as a refugee-only program. So this is why it's still called the Human Safety Net for Refugee Startups. But we soon realized that although Munich had 1.5 million refugees going through Munich, they of course did not all stay in Munich. They just went through as a first hub. So I think today we have about 25,000 refugees in Munich, registered refugees. So this isn't really a lot of people. And if you imagine of how many of them even have the capacity of becoming independent in their work, it gets to a very small number. So at a certain point, together with the Generali and the TGSN Foundation, we decided to open it up for migrants as well. But here starts the problem. What is a migrant? And when does a refugee stop being a refugee? So we're struggling very hard with this definition and how to get it circled in. So as for now, a refugee is always sure to be taken in. And for migrants, we do a one-by-one check, seeing if we really think that person is not worth supporting, but really needs our support, and if we think that we can really do something for this person.
Right. So usually how long do you support a person in running their business?
Well, that's very one-by-one case. First, you have an assessment. You come to us, we talk to you, and we see where's the gap. What is it you need? Do you know what you need? Do you know what's missing? and from there on we start working with you. So it can go from everything from a couple of weeks to someone who has been around for a year maybe, because it really took longer. They do this on the side of the job sometimes. So there's no retelling. Usually we say after a year we will reassess what's going on. What can we even still help you? I mean, we have limits too. Is it still worth working on it? Do we need to change something? So something between a couple of weeks, half a year is max.
Okay. Do you know like how? I don't know how many person you have social impact lab have engaged and support already. But you kind of have like a rough idea how many of them successful or closed down or.
Well, I don't really have approximative numbers. I do have to report, so I do have some quite sure numbers. So I think until now, I don't have it for year's end now, but I think until now, since 2017, we had 350 people who applied for a program, which doesn't mean much. It only means they applied and maybe they showed up once or we talked to them once. Maybe they even got rejected. And nationwide, we have something like 150 people who opened up a business with our support. Problem is retention. We don't know much about that now because this is really a difficult task. It is time consuming. It is personnel consuming. So retention is always a problem in social entrepreneurship because not only us, also our colleagues in other companies struggle to do this because this is costing a lot of time and effort to do this. We're trying to set it up now, but we don't really have figures.
Okay, I see. Well, I suppose that even like you have a lot of support from maybe also from a big company, but you still mentioned that still there's a lot of difficulties in running like what you're doing, which I think is a very good thing. So maybe you can tell us a bit about like to our audience and our other guests, like what kind of support could people give to Social Impact Lab, and so you can continue to like do the good work you're doing or even do more.
Well, we are privately run companies, so we're not really struggling with financials. Of course, we are, but on another level. So we mostly work with companies or state-run entities that give us money that fund us with money for doing our thing. So we don't need private money from anybody. But of course, we now hope that with the new government, it will be more accessible to come to funding, because this has always been difficult. Independent work has not been on the list for the last years because nobody was interested. So with the Liberal Party now being part of the government, we expect this to be better for us. But of course, we'll have to show. We don't know yet.
Okay, right, yeah. Hope Olaf stick to his promise.
Yeah, the other Olaf, yeah, not me.
Well, thank you for Olaf telling us about Social Impact Lab. Well, we'll come back to you in a bit when we have like a discussion. So now I think can move on to perhaps Ntkozo. So, well, hi. I guess I would start with asking you, like, when did you first have the idea of like starting your own business, and how was, yeah, I guess
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs, you always have the idea of starting your own business, right? At some level or other. It's just when you actually execute on it. So I think the execution happened run about a year ago to 2 years ago. I say the time period because it's absolutely got based in Munich, and not being a native German, the bureaucracy, the language, there were a lot of barriers that I was reluctant to actually pursue the idea to actually open the business. So I'm one of the people who are with social impact. So with the help of social impact, actually opened officially the business last year, this year January. But we started the process last year with looking at the paperwork, what it takes to actually go live.
Okay. Well, so maybe I can ask you, how did you come into contact with Social Impact Lab? Yeah.
Lots of research. I think as I was navigating the whole process of registering, you've got the Chamber of Commerce, which is IHK, where you go you found out how it is, what the regulations are around opening a business, but they do sometimes state resources or organizations that are able to help non-speaking German people or non-native Germans. So I was able to contact them. I attended one of their seminars, similar to something this platform actually, where there were different speakers who were talking about it, and I think Christina was there, similar to how Olaf was presenting. And yeah, I signed up, went through the vetting process, and that's how Lalelani came to be.
Right, right. Um, yeah. So during the process, like how, well, I guess, sorry, maybe I should start with asking that, um, as a person not from Germany, not from Munich, as an immigrant, and as well as a woman, what kind of things, what are the difficulties and obstacles do you find in setting up your business and running it?
Yeah, I think there's I was actually making notes as we were talking earlier, but there's quite a bit. I think it's layers, right? There's the beginning stage of if you don't have a language barrier, is about understanding the processes, the legal system, and the ability to be able to navigate that first and foremost, the admin process. Do you understand what it takes? Do you understand the regulations? And I think that's the first barrier, because it can be very intimidating if you are not, if you don't understand the language, if you don't speak the language, and you're not well integrated into the culture. That could be extremely intimidating. Confidence to be able to follow through, like Olaf mentioned, families, usually women, we have kids. I myself am a mother, and that also comes into play because it's about juggling the process. It's about being able to, because as you, most the panel will know, that being an entrepreneur takes a lot of your time and your energy, and it's just not the 9 to 5. Your mind is constantly busy, right? You're thinking, you brainstorming, you've got ideas, and sometimes you don't have the capacity to be able to shut some things down to be able to continue. You don't have a start-stop process. So if your home life, and you've got children and you've got a demanding family, it also becomes a huge barrier. As well as, like Olaf said, the bureaucracy. But even then, when you've got um, the support, the right support. So the organizations like yourselves and the platforms that we have help to bring that level of confidence that you're not alone. So there's also that feeling of being alone and being lonely. Um, and having so many thoughts and ideas on how to do something, but you need to streamline it. What do you do first? What do you do later? How do you organize and structure the processes, your home life, as well as the business, right? So that you can continue. So those were the main two challenges: the bureaucracy, confidence, and the right support system, as well as the family.
Right. Yeah. About the language barrier and dealing with bureaucracy, I think myself as a recent immigrant, I really feel the pain of that. Uh,
And
um,
it gets your confidence, right? Because it's sometimes you just think it's just too much. Something that could take 1 hour could take you 2 days to read through, to understand. And when you don't have somebody who's helping you move faster, your speed, which is something that I'm encountering at the moment. That although I have the right support, I'm I have to accept that my speed is not going to be as fast as the next person. What would take me 3 months to ramp will probably take me 6 months, right? Because with family, with the language, navigating the system, with the right support, I have to pace myself, right? Otherwise, I'll get frustrated.
right, right. Um, Aside from the points you just mentioned, um, is there like moments when you running your business that you feel not taken serious by other people because reasons because you know immigrant or you're a woman?
Luckily, I don't think I've had that kind of challenge in terms of discrimination against gender or being an immigrant, right? I think the great thing about being in Germany is that it's a very open-minded country, right? It's probably one of the first world countries that are forward-thinking with the UN around social activities, right? They're probably even further ahead than most people, most countries. But what does happen is that naturally, as a business person, nobody's going to take you seriously until you start making money. And I don't care whether you've got a brilliant idea or you could be the next big thing. But until you start showing results, that people will start taking you seriously. So I think it's more about building the confidence around the business model versus around discrimination on my gender or uh, the immigrant status.
Right, fighting against it. Yeah, perhaps you can tell us a bit about your business.
Okay. So, in summary, we just an online resource that helps African brands, specifically brands, not just anybody who's crafting anything. It's well-known brands in their African countries, and giving them exposure in Europe. So almost like a one-stop shop. It is a one-stop shop for all African brands. At the moment, we've started with four. We're using South Africa as the hub because it's the most mature African country in terms of import and export. So the brands from Kenya, Rwanda, the ones I'm working with from Nigeria, different countries, go via South Africa and we bring them in Germany. So we hold physical products for those brands. And the criteria, one of the criteria, because it's part of the social dynamic of it, right, is that the products must be made in Africa. It must be fair and social. So they must be able to disclose that the whole process of producing the products is fair and it gives back to the community. Like I said, it must be brands only, so we don't deal with individuals. There must be people who've put a lot of effort behind what they're producing, and there must be transparency around how they manufacture the products. So we must be able to see, they must share where they produce the products, where they get the sources of material or raw material that they're using, so that it's a way of giving back to the communities. So they must use the local communities to be able to produce these products. So it can be exported from another continent and then brought here. That's not allowed.
It sounds amazing, and aside from the social dimension, that I really like the idea of giving back to the communities. Um, and also, check out the website, your website, and well, I mean the stuff are really beautiful, and so just wonder like how do you make connection with the producers or like the the brands or the artists and so on.
Yeah, so at the moment, I use my local connections that I currently have in those countries. So it could be friends, it could be relatives who have brands that they like, right? It could be you who's probably saying, "Oh, I went to Africa and I wore this brand," and we look into it. We do the next level of research. about how are they produced, are they an established brand, do they have physical locations, and then we identify it through that. I also get to travel when I do go to Africa. Like now, I just got back. That's why I'm in quarantine. I couldn't be there with you guys, but it's I go and meet and try to make sure that I vet those vendors, right? I go see where they produce the products, and get to touch the material, how they produce the materials, and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And well, on the other hand, how how is your strategy in like approaching or attracting or coming into contact with like customers or potential customers?
That's actually, I think customers are there, right? I think everybody's a potential customer. What becomes a challenge is why should you pay a little bit 20 euro extra for it, for something, right, where you can get it cheaper somewhere else, because the cost of production for such products, they handmade, they produced in their natural environment, we importing it, there's a lot of costs associated to that, right, to bringing the product to you as a consumer. So it's just the education around that, the social element around that, that people must be willing to pay a little bit extra. And I'm still trying to work through the education process of that, of why, besides the fact that you like it, it's unique, it's different, why would you want to pay a little bit more extra for it? Because the stuff is, the products are quite unique, and they're not low-end products. Like I said, we deal with brands, people who are, some of them are internationally recognized in the Paris Fashion Weeks and so forth, but people don't know them, right? So how do you articulate the value to somebody like yourself on why you would buy it versus going to an H&M, for example?
Right, right. I suppose I imagine, right? I mean, I'm not a entrepreneur myself, not yet. Uh, well, one of the difficulties in like importing products, especially into like the European Union, would be trade barriers, like a lot of rules involved in doing import export. Yeah, I just wonder like, was it like very difficult for you to figure out, and is it like a big uh, problem you're facing when running your business and so on?
Yeah, that's a very valid question. And I think it's probably everybody will face it. It affects people, business owners in one way or another, some to a benefit and some not. If the import duty prices increase, the taxes increase, those who are selling and producing locally benefit. But for us who are importing, it is quite a challenge because it really, you continuously refining your business model to become profitable, not for yourself only, but also for the people who are bringing in the products, right? For those brands, because they also want to, it's their livelihood, right? So what I try to do is that I could try not to squeeze them too much, and leverage all the trade agreements that we have with between the continents, right? So, and that's part of the help that you get from social impact, right? We'll sit and we look at some of those things that, okay, what trade agreements exist between Africa and Europe? Can you leverage it? What documentation will you need in order to apply for that? So those are the avenues that I'm continuously exploring, because there's also, you have to also understand and respect the EU wanting to increase EU produced products, locally made products as well, right? They're trying to reduce the carbon footprint of products being brought in from different countries. So you also have to respect that, but also try to articulate your value proposition of why your product is not challenging, what is not working against the rules that are being set in place for encouraging local produce and organic products. So it's a continuous conversation. It is a challenge, and it's probably something that I was also talking to Christine about last month, that we're currently working on with one of the Melanie, who's helping at the moment, who currently has a similar business model, on how we can refine that value proposition.
I see,
That's
I see.
ongoing.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, and the, I mean, now you see with COVID, right? They're changing a lot of the rules. There's a lot of shipment delays. Prices are increasing. A lot of suppliers are looking locally to try to make use of what is available and self-reliance. There's a lot of talk about not relying a lot on other countries and increasing manufacturing locally. So you feel like you're being squeezed one way or another, and you have to find a valid proposition around that. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing about all that. It's very interesting to hear, like from entrepreneurial perspective. You know, what are the difficulties and how you deal with them. Um, well, I wish you good luck with the business and get out of the quarantine soon. Uh, yeah, and well, then we move on to Doris. Um, so I guess Doris, you are the coordinator for No Chains. Perhaps you can tell us about what is No Chains, um, and when did it start? How did it start? Um, please. Hello? We can't hear you.
It's in. um, yeah, so No Chains is a brand of worker cooperatives. So the products of No Chains are produced by workers under their own management rather than under a boss. And they are their own bosses. And No Chains is also a network because there are cooperatives producing in different places. And so No Chains was formed so that almost like, other international brands, they have one brand, but production could be in different places. So the initial concept was like that. Um, it formed by a meeting of a cooperative in Thailand, a workers' cooperative that was already established, and a cooperative in Argentina, which is 20th of December, but we can call them La Alameda because La Alameda is the organization that first proposed this. So the exact beginning was that I was working in a labor NGO, and then I attended a conference of unions in South America, and so I came to know this activist from La Alameda who explained about the cooperative movement in Argentina. And of course, this was very impressive because it's not common in Asia. And then when I returned to my work in the labor NGO, and we were preparing for a conference on how workers can face economic crisis. So we had the idea to invite this Argentine activist, and he knew that there was a worker cooperative, which also was born out of struggle um, in Thailand. So he proposed that they join together um, to 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 make a workers' brand, and yeah, the factory in Thailand, they initially had a worker strike. They had many workers, and they were striking for improved working conditions because the hours were very long. Um, and then afterwards, they could not get their jobs back, but they decided to remain as a cooperative, working under their own, deciding things among themselves. Um, and so, yeah, they survived with the help of a lot of NGOs and other networks. So after the Argentine and Thai factory. In 2010, they decided upon a name because it took a long time to find the name. So the name became No Chains. And 2010 was also the year that we had an international design competition. And then, yeah, each factory produced shirts with the designs of the winning designs, and then they were produced in Thailand and Argentina. And then after a few years, some other cooperatives joined, but they ended up failing because production couldn't be sustained. So yeah, that's my brief summary.
Right. Yeah, in my experience, when workers they have problems, like then they're either just kind of, talk over a cigarette about it. Yeah, my boss is not, like, after that, like something like that, and then what you just suck it up, kind of continue on, or you find another job, and so it's kind of fascinating to hear that well they did a strike, even though maybe they didn't win. They decide to come together and start their own business together, and so there it's yeah I think this is really interesting, like how they have this idea instead of like kind of go on with the kind of usual route, as I would say.
Yes. So for that kind of story, maybe I can give more time to Tamara, because Tamara is actually um, the main coordinator in her cooperative, and it has also been through ups and downs. So
Right. Yeah, unfortunately the representative from a Thai cooperative cannot be here with us, so I don't know if you Doris, you know some more about their struggle.
oh, yes, that's right. So Tamara will speak in a few minutes about the Argentine side. I can just speak briefly about the Thai cooperative. So yeah, they, I think they have been there since 2002. So they have been around for a very long time. And for a long time, they were sustained by a combination of um, um, contracting. So a larger brand would contract them to produce either full clothes or parts of clothes. And of course, the profit, I mean, the earning that they could make was somewhat low, but gradually they identified more ethical clients that respected their their need to have stable and humane working hours. So the cost, their labor cost is more than other workers in Thailand, which many times are migrant, kind of illegal, and easy to exploit. um, but coming up to the present, so in the last 4 or 5 years, they have struggled very hard, uh, more than 4 or 5 years, because Thailand used to be a major center for garment production, but then there's Bangladesh, Myanmar, many other countries opening up garment production, and then the factories would leave Thailand. So one thing you mentioned is about how workers, it's amazing when workers stick together. Um, there was a period, there have been some periods when they considered to disband because they need to, earn a living. And then other factories would try to hire them because they're very experienced. So, of course, sometimes people have left, even kind of core members, because of that. But even a few years ago, during a very difficult time, they they bought secondhand clothing and then resold secondhand clothing. And then also they chose a cheaper type of fabric. It's much thinner and cheaper, and then created clothing out of that to also sell at places that sell cheaper clothing. And so they demonstrated a really strong commitment to staying together until the difficulties pass, which is really impressive. Um, but cooperatives also have ups and downs, and the most recent difficulty is they had a very big order placed with them for bodysuits. It's like PPE for medical workers. And so they made it to very high standards. Again, at a cost that is a little bit above the competitors. And then the client didn't show up to pay. So they're left with thousands of pieces of this product. And so, yeah, part of what I'm doing is hoping to find in the international arena potential buyers of this kind of PPE. So yeah, of course, if anyone has suggestions, then we can discuss more later. I can give specifications and photos of this product.
For sure, for sure. Really great you mentioned this. I guess this is why one of the reasons why we try to organize this event is to connect and try to support each other. Well, I guess like what you have said, that it's not easy to compete with other businesses when you care about the human factor in your business. And the cooperative, especially the one in Thailand, as we heard, like struggling a lot with that. Yeah, I just wonder if, like, in what ways, like, people could support No Chains, and what is needed. What does No Chains need support for?
Right. So actually, we have struggled in the past for yeah, things, even basic things like maintaining the website, um, handling handling overseas orders, and then yeah, even marketing and making decisions on the designs that would be sellable. Uh, at first, we had a very idealistic way, which is like just find the most attractive designs internationally. But then we quickly found that colors and symbols have different meanings in different countries. And then yeah, like political meanings or yeah, symbolism. And then yeah, so we learned some lessons there. But yeah, I mean, all kinds of core things we could use help with. And I think one of the biggest is marketing and making the products that have good intentions be sellable. And then, of course, we're going to have a lot more challenges from understanding, you know, the tax rules and the shipping rules and all these things between different countries. So,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
many things.
Right. Website, designs, marketing, and deal with bureaucracy about import export. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sharing about no chains and the current situation and so forth. Then I shall move on with Tamara with the help of Carolina here. So yeah, well, Tamara, your cooperative, it's also connected to No Chains. Perhaps I could start by asking you, ask you to tell us more about your cooperative, the 20th of December, and how is it related to La Alameda? Yeah.
Ok, ahora vamos contigo, Tamara. La pregunta es que si nos pudieras platicar más de tu cooperativa 20 de diciembre y cómo está relacionada con No Chains y cómo está relacionada también con La Alameda.
Bueno, buenos días para acá, para Argentina, a todos y todas. La cooperativa 20 de diciembre es una de las partes, digamos, de la organización mayor que es justamente la Alameda. La Alameda es una organización social que está a punto de cumplir 20 años. El 20 de diciembre justamente surge, bueno, no sé si conocen que hacia fines de 2001 acá en nuestro país hubo una crisis del gobierno, digamos, del gobierno que estaba en ese momento, y eso lo que generó fue movimiento de, bueno, de la población en general. Eso desembocó en la formación de asambleas populares. Nosotros con otros compañeros formamos una de esas asambleas en un barrio de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, en el barrio de Parque Avellaneda, que está al sudoeste de la capital federal. Y bueno, con el correr del tiempo muchas de esas asambleas fueron decayendo en actividad. No sé, Carolina, si vos crees que yo frene para que traduzcas.
Vas bien, vas bien, vas bien.
Bien, entonces muchas de esas asambleas fueron dejando de estar activas. La nuestra tenía como objetivo cambiar algo, al menos en nuestro barrio. Ese era nuestro primer objetivo, y decidimos armar un centro comunitario, ¿no? Un lugar donde la gente que no tuviera recursos para comer, por ejemplo, tuviera un comedor. Fue así que empezamos a buscar espacios físicos, y bueno, ayuda de alimentos y demás, y encontramos un lugar abandonado que era un bar, un restaurante que estaba abandonado desde hacía 6 años en una esquina muy importante de nuestro barrio, y decidimos entrar, arreglarlo y poner a funcionar un centro comunitario. Cuando empezamos a recibir a la gente, que eran en general personas migrantes, mujeres en su gran mayoría, con niños, con niñas, empezamos a escuchar historias que tenían que ver con que habían venido desde Bolivia, les habían ofrecido trabajos acá en nuestro país, les decían que iban a ganar mucho dinero, que iban a tener una buena calidad de vida, y resultaba que llegaban a un lugar para ser explotadas laboralmente. Fue así que, bueno, descubrimos por un lado lo que tenía que ver con la trata de personas y con la explotación laboral, pero por otro lado pensamos que teníamos que dar alguna respuesta frente a esta situación, y fue así que conformamos la cooperativa de trabajo 20 de diciembre. Era una manera de generar puestos de trabajo para las personas que habían llegado a nuestro país para ser explotadas y que, bueno, cansadas de esa situación, intentaban escapar de estos lugares de trabajo, pero no tenían una alternativa. Entonces, bueno, la cooperativa 20 de diciembre surge como una alternativa frente al trabajo esclavo y a la trata de personas.
Okay, so the 20th of December is only a small part of La Alameda. The 20th of December began in 2001. So she's not sure if you know, but there was a crisis of government in 2001 in Argentina, and the population started to move. And one of the movements that came out of this crisis was that they started generating popular assemblies. And she and a couple of others founded a popular assembly in a part in the south of Buenos Aires. And one of the goals of the 20th of December was at the beginning to create a community center. So they started looking for places to build the community center with the goal of helping disadvantaged people, of course. And they found an abandoned restaurant. And the first thing they did was to renovate this restaurant and build it into a community center. And the women that came in mostly to this community center looking for help were disadvantaged women coming from Bolivia that were apparently promised work in Argentina and Buenos Aires. And when they got to Buenos Aires in Argentina, all they found was that they would be exploited. So this is how they came into contact with these type of women that were being exploited in Argentina themselves. And this is how they created the 20th of December.
Yeah, I remember watching this documentary about how workers in Argentina, in the aftermath of the financial crisis, and they opened up the factories to manufacture themselves. And I guess this is like where the context that Tamara just mentioned. So there's like one cooperative with the restaurant, and also there's as I know, or maybe I'm mistaken, there's also garment manufacturing.
Ok. Entonces, ahora la pregunta es que él vio un documental que durante la crisis del 2001 lo que hicieron fue abrir las fábricas a los mismos trabajadores para que ellos las utilizaran. Y él también quiere entender la diferencia entre este centro comunitario o la organización del 20 de diciembre y lo que tiene que ver con la industria textil o la industria, ¿cómo se dice? Sí, sabes lo que digo.
Sí, a lo que se están refiriendo es a todo el movimiento de fábricas recuperadas, digamos que a raíz de esta misma crisis, ¿no?, que yo mencionaba, y aún antes ya había habido algunas empresas que se declaraban en quiebra, que los dueños cerraban, intentaban cerrarla, pero los trabajadores decidían organizarse y quedarse adentro de la fábrica, resistir y recuperarla para poder mantener las fuentes de trabajo, digamos. Ese es el movimiento que se llamó de fábricas recuperadas, que lo estudió mucho incluso Naomi Klein. Hubo seguramente el documental al que se refieren es La Toma, ¿no?, donde ahí se muestra una fábrica recuperada que es Forja, era una metalúrgica, pero esto sucedió con un montón de empresas, bueno, de imprentas, algunas textiles, no muchas. La diferencia, si bien ambos movimientos, ¿no?, por ejemplo el de nuestra cooperativa y estas fábricas recuperadas, conformaron cooperativas de trabajo, la diferencia principal tal vez es que en estos casos ya existía un grupo humano que venía trabajando, ¿no?, que compartían un espacio de trabajo como la fábrica y tenían que después hacerse cargo de todo lo que tiene que ver con la fábrica, porque cuando el empresario declaraba la quiebra, los únicos que quedaban resistiendo eran los trabajadores, los operarios, los que estaban en producción, pero todos los que estaban en la gestión, en la comercialización y en la administración se iban con el dueño. Entonces era bastante complicado, de hecho sigue siendo bastante complicado para los trabajadores empezar a hacerse cargo de algunos sectores de la empresa que no manejaban. En cuanto a nuestra cooperativa y otras cooperativas que se fueron formando por fuera de las fábricas recuperadas, la diferencia es que la mayoría de las personas se fueron juntando por necesidad, no tenían un conocimiento previo. En las cooperativas, una de de las cosas fundamentales es el grupo humano, porque bueno, es una empresa social en donde lo que prima es la ayuda mutua, la solidaridad, y si hablamos de que la están formando personas que ni siquiera se conocían entre sí, que venían de una situación de vulnerabilidad y que no tenían como objetivo generar su propio trabajo, esto es en sí mismo es una dificultad esa para
No es imposible, pero es bastante complicado.
Okay. Thank you. So these are indeed two different types of things that you are referring to. So the first thing that you are referring to is what she calls the recovered factories. This happened after the crisis. A lot of factories declared bankruptcy. And what happened was that management left and the workers had to organize themselves. The workers that were actually doing the manufacturing process, they had to organize themselves to now manage the factories as well. So what she says here is these are the workers that already existed in these fabrics, and they had to find a way to organize and learn how to manage a factory themselves. So this is something that they still struggle with, because from one day to the other, you have to take over management, because what happened is that management left and only the workers in the operational aspect really stayed. So this is something that they had to organize and collaborate with. But her cooperative is a bit different, because the people that came weren't actually these workers. So they came together out of necessity. And this was different because these are people that don't know each other. So one of the first struggles as well is not only learning how to manage, but how to understand each other. So this is the difference in what is the recovering of factories, which, by the way, I think the documentary you mean se llama La Toma by Naomi Klein. So this is the difference between that and her social enterprise.
Right. But it already sounds pretty amazing here that in the midst of an economic crisis, and you are running a social project, a community project, and with an economic project within it, and organize it with a group of people that is very marginalized. They are immigrants. Maybe they don't know local context or other language, maybe so on, and they're women. They face a lot of discrimination. So just really interested to know more. Like, how did you manage to get this through, and what are the difficulties and the obstacles in while doing this,
Ok, ¿le parece muy impresionante que aún durante una crisis económica hayan podido crear este proyecto social, por así decirlo? Y le parece realmente conmovedor, pero su pregunta es, ¿cómo lograste trabajar con estas personas que aún así ya son marginadas, que tienen poco contacto social, que son mujeres, y cuáles fueron los principales obstáculos ayudando o creando este proceso social? Sí.
Bueno, primero gracias por la consideración, ¿no? Sí, la verdad es complicado. Mientras esperaba que tradujeras, pensaba, ¿no? Que son 20 años y es mucho tiempo, la verdad. Y también, yo también me pregunto cómo hicimos, ¿no? Creo que principalmente lo hicimos el grupo original de la Alameda y que empezó a pensar en la cooperativa y demás, éramos 14 personas. La mayoría eran hombres y yo en su momento fui quien me encargué de escribir el proyecto y de plasmarlo en papel, y no sabía nada de la industria de la confección, sí sabía de las necesidades de la gente, sí tengo esta cuestión de empatía con la gente y para ponerme en lugar de ellas también aprendí el oficio de costurera, porque creía que tenía que haber ese lenguaje común. Pero lo más complicado, francamente, es romper las cadenas que tenían estas mujeres, ¿no? Que las ataban justamente a esa situación de opresión de la que venían, no solamente de sus lugares de trabajo anteriores, sino también de una cultura no sé si diría machista, pero una cultura de que la mujer como que no tiene la posibilidad de crecer porque tiene que ocuparse de sus hijos, ¿no? Eso era algo que todo el tiempo teníamos que luchar, porque cada vez que había que hacer yo no puedo porque tengo hijos o me tengo que ocupar de mis hijos. Entonces también empezamos a buscar alternativas para cuidar entre todas a los hijos, encontrar vacantes en jardines para que los chicos estén durante el día. Bueno, eso fue una primera batalla. Hubo varias batallas. Después también competir contra justamente el rubro de la indumentaria que se basa fundamentalmente en nuestro país, como en tantos otros, en la explotación laboral. Pero bueno, creo que con una comunidad que se organiza y con convicciones y con valores es posible, no fue sencillo, pero bueno, lo venimos sosteniendo hasta el día de hoy. Hemos logrado contactarnos, como ya contó Doris, con cooperativas del otro lado del planeta. También hacemos lo mismo, un trabajo en red con otros grupos de trabajadores de nuestro país, no solo de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, sino también de otras provincias. Tratamos siempre de trabajar en red porque creemos que esa es la manera. Nadie se salva solo, como dice un amigo nuestro, el Papa Francisco, y estamos convencidos de que es así, nadie se salva solo y creemos que la clave es el trabajo en red. Y así nos podemos apoyar mutuamente, ¿no? Que justamente es uno de los valores de las cooperativas. O sea, no creemos que la cooperativa sea la solución, sí es la que más se acerca a la solución. Lo ideal sería que todas las personas tengan su fuente de trabajo digno, registrado, con donde se cumplan todos los derechos laborales, pero el camino hacia eso, frente a la situación actual en que venían, es una opción la cooperativa.
Okay. What she just said was really lovely, so I was really moved.
No,
Sorry
it's
about
okay.
that.
Doing a great job.
So, as I was translating before, she said that she was thinking about the fact that it's been 20 years with this cooperative that she has, and how much this has changed her as well. And she's, of course, started to think about how this started. And when she started writing the project at La Alameda, it was 14 people, but mostly men. And when she started writing the project, she approached it with a lot of empathy towards the women. And she learned a lot about the garment industry. And she actually became a tailor herself, because she thought that was the best way to understand what these women were going through. But when you asked her about obstacles, the main obstacle that she found that these women had was the metaphorical chains of being tied down, of oppression. These are women that come from a background of oppression themselves. So breaking these chains was something that was very difficult, breaking the mindset of these women that thought, oh no, I can't do that because I actually have to be taking care of my family, and that's my role. So breaking that mindset was really difficult. So one of the first things that they did was, of course, find a way to help each other with childcare and groups that would take care of each other's children. And she believes that any cooperative that has clear goals and values can succeed, because it's what gets them through, that having shared goals and values. And the most important thing is finding other cooperatives and finding networks such as this one and ourselves, so that they can support each other, because no one can save themselves alone. So these cooperatives have to find networks themselves, and no one can save themselves alone, is something that Pope Francis said, another Argentinian. And this is what she thinks helps succeed, so building these networks constantly. She doesn't think that cooperatives themselves are the solution, the perfect solution. Everyone at some point ideally will have a dignified place of work in an ethical way, but for now cooperatives do offer this option towards oppressed people.
Yeah, the point about making connection, like building this network, so people can support each other, and well, within national boundaries, Argentina in this case, and even beyond boundaries, like this project No Chains. So I'm wondering, like this is how their cooperatives are working within No Chains, like how do they cooperate with the like, for example, the cooperative in Thailand, for instance, and in building this network and connections, what kind of support or help, or let's not say help, let's say mutual support that Tamara, you think that would it's needed to continue strengthen this project and network?
La pregunta es sobre tu punto de hacer redes y crear redes y apoyarse mutuamente, no solo dentro de una misma nación como Argentina, sino también cruzando fronteras. ¿Qué es importante en esta colaboración entre cooperativas, por ejemplo, que mencionas tú? ¿Cómo colabora, por ejemplo, 20 de diciembre con No Chains, con Doris y con Tailandia? Y cómo es no esta ayuda, dice él, sino cómo este apoyo mutuo funciona.
Y, por ejemplo, en el caso del proyecto original No Change que llevamos adelante junto a Doris con la cooperativa de Tailandia, cuando surgió esta idea, que creo que ya lo contó Doris, por lo que pude entender, en el año 2009-2010, teníamos como un primer desafío que era hacer una primer producción de las mismas prendas en dos cooperativas totalmente distantes, con lenguajes diferentes, con culturas diferentes. Y también necesitábamos fondos, recursos económicos, ¿no? Para hacerlo. Entonces, en ese momento logramos contactar con una ONG que también trabaja con cooperación internacional. Conseguimos un fondo y utilizamos ese primer dinero para que ambas cooperativas puedan producir su primer colección, ¿no? Y después de eso iniciamos un fondo que, bueno, si bien no era muy grande, para poder apoyar a que otras cooperativas también entren y produzcan parte de las colecciones de No Chain que siguieron con los años. Así fue que se ayudó a Tailandia, bueno, a Indonesia, Filipinas, ¿no? Recuerdo. Después, con las cooperativas acá en nuestro país, lo que hacemos es generar proyectos, bueno, en particular un proyecto de financiamiento que logramos a través de nuestro Ministerio de Desarrollo Social, que obtuvimos un subsidio, o sea, un dinero que no teníamos que devolver. Armamos un proyecto productivo en red, es decir, que cada cooperativa tenía a cargo producir determinada tipo de indumentaria, algunos ropa para mujeres, otros ropa para varones, otros ropa para chicos, bueno, así variado, y armando una especie de guardarropa familiar producido en condiciones de trabajo digna a precios accesibles para los consumidores, porque también buscamos eso, ¿no? Que en esta gran red entren los consumidores, que consuman de una manera responsable, preguntándose quién produjo su ropa, quién hizo, quién está atrás. Le preguntaban antes a la otra compañera cómo hacían para que compren de las marcas socialmente responsables y no de H&M, por ejemplo. Bueno, en eso también trabajamos, en tratar de generar conciencia en los consumidores. Y bueno, y también conseguimos comprar máquinas, que las compra la cooperativa 20 de diciembre con ese subsidio, pero que las distribuyó entre las diferentes cooperativas. De esa manera, bueno, trabajamos en red y todas bajo la misma marca que es No Chains, ¿no? Entonces, esa es una de las maneras, ¿no? O también cuando conseguimos algún cliente que tiene una cantidad importante de producción, la hacemos entre varias cooperativas. Eso también es trabajo en red, digamos.
Okay. One moment. Okay, so the original project of No Chains, together with Doris, that apparently Doris already told the story. It was created in 2009, 2010. And so the first thing that, for example, they did is they wanted to create the same garment with two different cooperatives two different languages, two complete different cultures. And they got the funds from an NGO, and they used the money to create the same garment, and they managed to do it, I suppose through excellent work between Doris and Tamara. And then they used the rest of the money to create a mutual fund that could be accessed by other cooperatives. And this is how they were able to help cooperatives in Indonesia and the Philippines as well. And within Argentina, what they did is to work with looking for financings from the Ministry for Social Development. And with the funding that they got there, what they did is distribute the funding through multiple collectives, and each collective would create a garment, for example, a male garment, or a garment for women, or a garment for children. So each cooperative got a role, so to speak, and they would build a family wardrobe. And at the same time, they wanted to create this with ethical working conditions and accessible prices. And which she mentioned what Osokono had already said, that you have to create a social conscience in the consumers as well, that they understand where the garment comes from, how it was done, so that they are willing to accept the price as well. But at the same time, keep the price accessible. So that's definitely difficult. And what they also did with the funding is that they managed to buy machines and distribute it among the different cooperatives. And yes, I think this is what she said.
Right. Well, it's very interesting to know that. Well, I guess the other part of my question, I wonder if Tamara has more to say about that. Is like, well, how can we support them then?
La pregunta es cómo pueden apoyar a tu organización.
Bueno, a la cooperativa básicamente se la puede apoyar comprándonos lo que producimos, ¿no? Y generando también esta conciencia entre los que compran y difundiéndolo. En cuanto a las otras áreas de la organización, nosotros tenemos también una fundación que tiene presencia en todo el país. Bueno, y también a partir de esa presencia en todo el país, intentamos también hacer vínculo con los trabajadores, colaborar para que también puedan generar sus propios emprendimientos, ¿no? Frente a la crisis y falta de empleo, sobre todo agravada por esta pandemia, ¿no? Que nos atravesó a todo el mundo, y estamos reactivándonos. Pero nosotros también lo que llevamos adelante, además de esta lucha contra la trata y contra la explotación en todas sus formas, no solo laboral, pero sobre todo laboral, es como empoderar a las bases, digamos, a los trabajadores, porque creemos que ahí está la fuerza, ¿no? de un cambio en nuestra sociedad. Básicamente difundiendo lo que hacemos, creo que es la manera de ayudarnos. No creemos que se requiera dinero, por ejemplo, pero sí difusión y bueno, y apoyar las campañas que eventualmente vamos haciendo, ¿no? Hoy, francamente, la mayoría de quienes integramos la organización estamos, además de abocados a seguir sosteniéndola, abocados muy, muy fuertemente a nuestra gestión en un organismo público que tiene que ver con la lucha contra la trata. En nuestro país hay una ley de trata desde el año 2008, pero hasta ahora no existen programas o políticas públicas específicas para, por ejemplo, asistir a las víctimas de este delito. Y en eso estamos trabajando fuertemente. Creemos que, por ejemplo, esto de generar cooperativas de trabajo y alternativas para las personas que salen de estas situaciones de explotación es una de las maneras, o sea, generar trabajo, eso es lo fundamental. A una persona que sale de una situación así, una ayuda económica temporaria le puede ser de utilidad, de hecho es necesaria, pero lo que le va a ayudar a reconstruir su proyecto de vida es poder insertarse nuevamente en la sociedad a través de su trabajo. Entonces, bueno, en eso es donde más énfasis nosotros ponemos.
Okay. So the first thing, of course, you can buy the garments that they produce, and that helps them a lot, of course. But for her, it's more important that we all share the message, and we all manage to share the campaign that they've started. They also have a foundation as well, with presence all over the country, to create collaborations with workers and create business opportunities for them, which of course now with COVID has become even more difficult with the COVID crisis. But the main goal that they have is to empower workers, and because they do come from a very traumatic experience, and so they don't wish to have to receive any money necessarily, but to share the message of how human exploitation impacts people themselves and why this message is so important. In 2008 in Argentina, they did establish a law against human exploitation, but they don't have any public policy to help the people that come out of these situations. So this is, of course, also their main goal with the cooperatives, to find a way to empower these people that come from such a traumatic experience as human exploitation, to find or to restructure their lives again, and to find a way to get a job, for example, and even the most insignificant, or not insignificant, but even tiny economic help while they find work after coming out of a human exploitation situation can be a lifesaver for them. So for them, the most important thing is to share this message and to understand where it comes from and why it is needed.
Well, thank you for sharing story of yourself and your cooperative and community project.
Que muchas gracias por contarnos tu historia y sobre esta cooperativa y sobre tu comunidad. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
You're welcome. Well, yeah, we have a little bit time left, so I guess I want to open things up a little bit. So maybe the four guests, you have like questions for each other. But before that, well, we have a comment from audience, a comment from Chiara. This is to Ntkozo. Ntkozo, it was great meeting you at Human Safety Net Kickoff. I love Lalelani and the selection of designer outfits in your online shop. It's amazing. Kudos to you.
Well, thank you so much. Still work in progress. Still a lot of teething problems, but yeah, thank you. We'll keep trying to move forward.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I would like to ask if you guys have questions for each other.
Que si tienen preguntas uno al otro.
Well, I don't really have a question, but I've recently been to a meeting which was quite similar. And we had people from all over the world, Philippines, Venezuela, Mexico, Argentina, Jordan and such. And although we all share a certain degree of topics and, well, let's so call it problems, also they are very different from country to country. So for me, it's very difficult to understand what the difficulties in Argentina might be, or even the Philippines. So there's nothing I can really relate to, because our business here for social impact is mainly taking place in Germany with a few affiliations outside, but it's not really something that we do internationally on an international level. So therefore, it was nice hearing what the others do, and I'm quite impressed by what they do and how they do it, because I think it's less stressful than what I do, but it's another level. But that's nothing really I can relate to or transport to or find familiarities.
I actually have a question. So my question is for Osokono. I hope I'm saying it correctly. So I'm an immigrant woman as well in Munich. So I was thinking how hard it was at the beginning. I had the advantage of knowing the language, but I do remember how difficult it was at the beginning in general, right? So I never created my own business. So I'm quite amazed by you. And you spoke a lot about confidence, right? And somehow I do think that as an immigrant woman, confidence has always been difficult for me, so to speak, at the beginning, especially when my first job, for example, I didn't really know how to speak up for myself. So I was wondering where you get so much confidence from.
It's a
Thank
very
you.
good question.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's confidence or naivety. I think a little bit of ignorance and being in your own head sometimes is a little bit helpful, because I don't think you can ever be confident enough to know what you're doing. And that's why it's so important to get help. And I think as soon as I got help, I became a little bit more confident that somebody else is on my same level of crazy, you know? So I think the support system that we've got with these panels, with the amazing work that Tamara and Doris are doing, you gain confidence from them, seeing that they're doing it, and then you also realize it's actually not impossible. It's just one step in front of the other. But I'd say for me the most important thing, like I've been learning, is not to be so hard on myself. I'm not moving as fast as I thought I would, or from people looking outside, as fast as I should. But every day I try to do something, whether mentally or physically, that moves me forward, right? And I think I gain confidence from not putting pressure on myself and working at my own pace and speed with the capacity and the resources that I have. And I think that's where I get the confidence to continue and move forward, because pressure and expecting to build a huge organization in 1 year or 2 years is just not realistic. It's possible for other people. There's other people who've done it 6 months and they're already great, and that's okay. But with the capacity that I have and the knowledge and the resources that I have, I can only move so far and so fast.
Yeah, I understand what you said about the same level of crazy. I think when I find other women who has the same experiences as me and we find like similarities, I think that's always helped me the most. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very comforting to actually have these platforms, right? And may not be you probably talking to one person who's probably going to gain confidence after this to do something, but there's no right or wrong. And I think it's to continue to talk about it and to create such platforms where people feel comfortable to know that you don't have to be perfect, but you just need to start.
Right. Amazing. I actually have a question for Olaf. Um, well, I think what you said is very true, that it's very difficult to have like an international cooperation because the context is so different. But just for, let's say, food for thought or snack for thought, you know. Let's say if I come to Social Impact Lab, you know, and say, well, I want to start a business as an immigrant, and my business is to import, let's say, no chains products into Germany. Is that a possible thing?
Well, at least as a starting point, we might have to discuss what exactly it is you need and how far you are, and if it's only an idea of you even further with this, or do you already have an idea on how to do this? So this is always a starting point. How and what? Do you know what you need? Do you know where you are at? Do we need to find out where you're at? So this is always the starting point. So basically, coming to us with this idea would be okay. Let's see what it is. That is not so much a problem.
All right, all right, all right. I'll go home tonight and, you know, think about it. Come back to you. Maybe.
Yeah, but we're tough on choices, so.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, let's see. Yeah, if there's more questions for each other or from the audience, let's see. Oh, there's something coming. This is a question from the audience. To Doris, Tamara, and Ntkozo, do you feel like there are similar challenges that you as women face in your work? Be it in Hong Kong, be it in Buenos Aires, be it in Munich, or be it also in South Africa? Would you like? Yeah.
¿Sientes que hay obstáculos que son similares como mujeres en el área en el que trabajan, sea en Hong Kong, Buenos Aires, Múnich o Sudáfrica? Es pregunta para todas. No sé si quieras empezar tú, Tamara.
Bueno, sí, creo que sí que hay algunos obstáculos que son comunes, pero que también eso está empezando a cambiar o ya empezó a cambiar hace unos años. En mi caso particular, yo no lo vivo como obstáculo porque creo que desde hace muchos años no considero que las mujeres estemos en desventaja, pero sí en lo general veo que en algunos casos es así y existen esos obstáculos reales, pero también, y espero que no se enojen conmigo, creo que a veces hay algunas mujeres que ponen excusa por temor o por cuestiones culturales incluso, que no pueden crecer en lo que quieren hacer porque se tienen que ocupar de la casa, de los hijos, ¿no? Yo la verdad es que tengo un hijo, tengo una casa y me ocupo muy bien de él y de sus cosas, pero también creo que pude hacer todo lo que me propuse. Insisto, es cierto, existen estas barreras para las mujeres, pero también depende de nosotras esforzarnos y superarlas, ¿no? No es imposible, al contrario. Yo creo que soy un ejemplo de que es posible. Doris también es un ejemplo de que es posible. Y Ncongwe, no sé si lo dije bien, también, que dijo, en un momento dijo que en lo personal a veces los hijos son un obstáculo, pero aún así lo superamos. Si nos lo proponemos, lo podemos superar.
Okay, so she said, of course, there are similar challenges, even though it's starting to change. But she, in general, doesn't see it as being a woman as being a disadvantage. She does not think that women in general are a disadvantage. She hopes we don't get mad at her for saying this. But she thinks that sometimes women hold themselves back out of fear or out of thinking they have to take care of the children or the home. She herself has a child, as we saw at the beginning. Well, not everyone saw, but she herself has a child, and she also has a home, and she was able to overcome this and be successful. But it depends on us as women to overcome these challenges and to decide to move forward, as she thinks Doris and Ntokoko also have. She also said, for example, during her presentation, she said that she has 2 children as well, and she was able to somehow manage this. So it depends. So it comes down to us as women to be able to overcome this. Not saying that there aren't any disadvantages, but as women, we have to decide to take, I suppose what she means, take ownership of our lives.
And if Doris and Ntkozo, you have something to say about this question?
Let Doris go first. Doris, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, well, how can I answer? So I'm also a mother. I have 2 children, and of course, it's difficult to balance work and being a mother. So I think it's quite universal. I mean, the employment world, the working world is not, it must be much better in Germany. Um, like in Hong Kong, we don't have working hours regulation at all. We don't have, and there's very little government subsidized childcare. So on the other hand, we have domestic workers that you can pay and they live in your house. Yeah, but what I want to say is it's difficult. I think it's still quite universal for mothers who work, and then especially if you have a social mission. So if you are in like, so for me, I consider myself to be in the labor movement, but even the labor movement, they have long meetings and sometimes the meetings are not at times that are friendly for families. And so, but I also take it positively because I stay inside the labor movement. I try to force the labor movement to become more friendly to women activists who are still there. And same thing at work, uh, try to make demands on the workplace to be more accommodating. And then same thing with my partner in the family to demand more cooperation. Then then by all these ways we are trying to create the world that will be more friendly for women to have equal space everywhere. Yeah.
What I would say about that is that, equality and equity are not the same thing. Equality doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at work. It doesn't exist in life, and I don't expect it. So that's basically my approach to it. That whichever situation, even going into this, I don't expect anything to be fair, because if I did, I would spend a lot of time focusing my efforts and my energy in trying to communicate what I need versus doing what needs to be done. So it's actually maybe a different way of looking at things. It's not the healthiest at all times, because yes, I acknowledge that my gender plays a role in certain things. I acknowledge that in some institutions or some systems are not designed for women to be able to participate in, and that's okay. But where I can, I try to focus on what needs to be done on my part. And if I do find that I'm hitting a roadblock because of my gender, that's where I go for advice. I ask for support from people who are either legally or people who are in those, understand those systems. But I don't expect it, and I don't go in expecting anybody to be fair in what I'm about to do or what I'm asking for. It makes it so much easier. It gives you a lot of peace of mind, and it brings the accountability to me, right? It's not about them, what they're doing to me. What they think and what they do is none of my business, right? It's what is happening with me and what I need to do, and that's how I navigate. And with that kind of mindset, you usually find that you meet the people who want to support you. You meet people who will be on your side, because then you focus your energy on the right things and on the right people, and people who are trying to help you move forward, instead of those people who are shutting doors for you. I don't waste my time with that. I hope that makes sense. It's just a different way of seeing things. It's not the healthiest, but it keeps things moving.
I like that. I like that. Like.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear. Yeah.
Well, we have only like a few minutes left. I wonder if there's more questions. Well, if there's no more questions, then, well, we have Sofia that is gonna provide us with some amazing beat to wrap this up. But before that, well, I'm just gonna say that, well, I mean, I don't have a business plan yet for Olaf, but we do have dozens of these, I don't know, maybe the camera could zoom in to the t-shirts. We do have dozens of these t-shirts I'm wearing, okay. I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not. Like, these are no change t-shirts, so if you are interested, you can message Nika Music, contact Nika Music, or you know what, we will put in the contacts and different kind of information onto the YouTube link, so you can check it out. Yeah, if you're interested in a t-shirt, contact Nika Music and so on. Right. That's it. So, well, thank you for everybody coming. Olaf, Doris, Ntkozo, Tamara, and also Carolina. And of course, well, thanks for Cajo and also Behu de Monaco and everybody else who organizing it. Thanks for the audience for coming. I actually don't know how many people are there, but well, that's it. Okay, well, actually also thanks Sofia for coming, giving us the music. And that's it from me. Well, I guess I'll pass the mic to, no? All right.
Dijo que muchas gracias.
Oh, I see. There's a close-up on the t-shirt now, right? You can see. It says here. Yeah, I'm no chains. Yeah, exactly. Is there something in the back? Actually, no. Okay. Yeah, I actually haven't looked at the back of the t-shirts until now. Hello, Sofia.
Hello.
Hello, and I think I will give the time to you.
I'm sorry? What?
I said that I think it's time for me to give the moment to you.
Oh, okay. I thought there's still 50 minutes left, but okay, I'm ready. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
So our next song is going to be Out of Breath. Okay. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, your voice is very beautiful and the music is so beautiful.
Thank you. It's actually my boyfriend's song, and he's in the shower. He would have known if it was like 15 minutes later because I thought it was a little later. But that's why we're improvising his song. This is the first time. It's Tibuan. He's really nice for helping me out. And I just learned the song about 5 minutes ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it worked out fine for that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the guitar was excellent also. I cannot believe you just picked it up.
Yeah, like I'm playing bass in the band, and I just had to kind of put the knowledge I had from the song on the other instruments kind of worked out, but it was fine. Really well. Okay. Okay, so yeah.
Was soll ich abschließen? Die Frage.
We just learned all of this. It sounded like 5 minutes. And yeah, the next song is gonna be so, goodbye. Vielen Dank, Tür. One of my, okay. So yeah, I can see everybody. This is my first voice. Next song is also one of my own, which is probably a little happier. I feel like they kind of tend to get a little bit melancholic. You don't need that all the time. Now you'll be caught instantly trying to catch my track, thrown in the air. I'm trying to be so sorry for my guitar playing. I haven't played in a really long time because my wrist does make some problems, but it's all right. We can work with that. I think this is already my last song, if that's fine with you, because I planned with half an hour of a set. Yeah, next song is one I wrote when I was 11, so don't judge the lyrics. I still like singing it. I want the rain to stay. I want the sky to turn gray. I want the leaves to fall down. I want the red and orange and brown. I want the rain to stay. I want the sky to turn gray. And I want the leaves to fall down, down. I want them red and orange and brown. It begins to feel like fall, and it's starting to get cold. When you first see your breath in the sky, then you know falls nearby. Oh, when you first see your breath in the sky, you know falls nearby. Out in the rain, still now in the sky, to turn away. I want the leaves to fall down, down. I want them red and orange and brown. Even though it will pass by, you'll stay and look up to the sky. You ask yourself why, ask yourself why, ask yourself why. I want the rain to stay now on the sky, to turn gray. Well, I want the leaves to fall down, and I want them red and orange and brown. I want the rain to stay now on the sky, to turn gray. Well, I want the leaves to fall down. I want them red and orange and brown, and orange and brown. That's it. Thank you.